Hello everyone, we hope you're all doing well. Welcome to one more video presented to you by Insights IAS team as part of your InstaEthics, a GS4 initiative. Now in this video, we will be talking about Immanuel Kant, one of the most celebrated philosophers from the western part of the world. His philosophy, UPSC has focused on it both from section A and section B perspective, right? So understanding this is very crucial for scoring very good marks in your GS4 ethics paper. So please pay attention towards it. Now, whatever ethics videos that we have done so far, there's just one fundamental question that we are trying to answer as clearly as possible. What is this fundamental question? It is, what constitutes good or bad? What is the exact nature of this goodness? What is the exact nature of this badness? Since the time man started to acquire knowledge, a greater understanding of the world around him, he started to come up with various theories as to what is good or bad. Most of the theories that we came up in the initial part of our evolution used religion or God to determine what is good or bad. Those theories which use religion to justify goodness or badness of an action, they are collectively called as divine command theory. As per this theory, an action is good because that particular religion says it is good. Even to this particular present point in our life, in our society, be it in India or anywhere else in the world, there are so many actions that we tend to adopt, so many actions that we tend to neglect because we believe it is our religion which provides sanctions for doing it, or we believe that our religion explicitly forbids such an action. Alright? Religion. But as and when the time moved on, there came a school of philosophers who said you don't have to depend on religion to determine what is good or bad. Because if you bring in religion to determine what is good or bad, it's a very toxic proportion at times. Because in one religion, you might have a system where they justify slavery. In another religion, you might have a system where they justify various types of social hierarchies where people in the lower sections are discriminated to larger degree. Right? So using religion to determine the goodness of an action is not going to be a sustainable solution in the longer run or even in the shorter run. So what they did was, they said, in order to determine what is good or bad, you have to depend upon the humans themselves. Their intellectual capability is what we need to pay attention towards. We have to believe that humans are rational beings, right? Capable enough to decide what is good or bad. And in this school of philosophy, one of the most celebrated ones in this school of philosophy happens to be Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant was a German philosopher who lived in most part of the 18th century. Now, so far we have discussed philosophers such as Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates. For them, what constituted good or bad? What actions was good or bad as per them? It was not actions per se, but rather the character, the moral character of the individual who is taking up an action. Right? If he had good virtues, eventually the actions will also be good. If he has bad virtues or vices, the actions will also be bad. For Immanuel Kant, he did not try to answer the question like Aristotle, Plato, or Socrates did. What he rather did is, if a person is adopting good ways or means, then that was considered as good. If a person is adopting bad ways or means, for example, if he is stealing money and he is distributing that money amongst the poorer sections in the society, the end result is good. The poor people are getting wealth. But the ways or means that this person is adopting is bad. Is it not? For Immanuel Kant, it was always the ways or means that the person is adopting to create goodness in the society. This is called as non-consequentialist theory. Okay, it is also referred to as deontological ethics. Okay, the opposite of this theory happens to be teleological ethics, which was proposed by Jeremy Bentham, which influenced one more philosopher called as John Stuart Mill. We will be talking about this in the next video, right? For them, it was the consequence of an action. If the consequence creates good, then it was right. If the consequence creates something bad, then it was wrong. Opposite to them is Immanuel Kant, for whom it was the ways or means. Hence, the name non-consequentialist. Let us learn more about Kantian ethics, or this deontological or non-consequential ethics. Now, Immanuel Kant, he introduced two terms. One is hypothetical imperative and the other one is categorical imperative. Understanding this is very crucial to know about Kantian ethics. Let me first start out by explaining to you what is hypothetical imperative. Now, on a daily basis, we carry out so many actions which are born out of our personal desire. If you want to excel in UPSC civil service examinations, you need to read, practice a lot more. If you're working in an organization and you want the trust of the organization in you, then you should be honest in your work. In both this example, there was a if statement. Along with that if statement, there was a then, if then. Hypothetical imperatives are like this. If you have a desire, then this is the course of action that you need to take. Hypothetical imperatives are born out of our personal desires. It's as simple as this. On the other side, you have categorical imperatives. In categorical imperatives, there is absolutely nothing like if and then statement. It's an obligation that you have to follow no matter where you are, no matter the time period, no matter the cultural differences. Stealing is wrong. Lying is wrong. Murder is wrong, and these are obligations that you are supposed to follow at all instants of time. Alright? This is what categorical imperative means. In categorical imperative, there is less of that personal angle as you have in the hypothetical imperatives. Categorical imperatives are something which are universal in nature. Immanuel Kant expanded on this categorical imperatives by giving two principles under it. One principle is called as universalizability. What is this universalizability? Here, you need to adopt actions. You need to conduct yourselves in such a way that your actions could become universal. Now, if you are taking up the subsidy application of a person, and in that application, the person has not given proper set of documents, but when you see him, you are overcome by sympathy or overcome by compassion, and you just give the subsidy. The end result is that person gets the subsidy, you're happy, the person is also happy, well and good. But the problem over here is, if each and every officer tend to work in such a scenario where they are tweaking the rules or breaking the rules for creating good, then that is wrong. If it is adopted at a universal level, then the whole system of administration might fall as well. This is what Immanuel Kant's deontological ethic means. There are certain duties that you are supposed to follow. You are obligated to follow, to be more precise. There are no if and thens. It's a obligation. Please remember this. When you are an officer, right, always ask yourself the action that you are doing, if it is adopted at a universal level, will it create good or bad in the administration? Is it prone or vulnerable to be misused? If you can apply this, then that is appreciated. In your section B case studies, they would have given you so many options, my friends. In those options, they might have suggested you to keep your eyes closed, even when something bad is happening, because out of that bad, at the end of the day, something good is being created. If you adopt that principle in your answer, and if you say that it is good, then that is something which Immanuel Kant considers as wrong. The reason being very simple. If you close your eyes to something which is bad and this trend is adopted at a universal level, the whole system of society, the administration that we have built, will come apart. This is something that you need to remember. The other part of his ethics, that is Kantian or duty-based or deontological ethics or non-consequential ethics, is you need to treat humanity or human beings as an ends in themselves and not as a means. The example that I can give for you in this situation is you have multinational pharmaceutical companies who used to work in Western world and who work even now. They make these life-saving drugs for some of the non-communicable diseases which are plaguing the world at a larger degree in the present times, be it cancer, diabetes, and so many other life-threatening diseases. Now, these companies, they are making products which can cater to only select few who can afford them. And when a developing country such as India goes about with a process where it can make innovations, come up with generic medicines using their formulations and make it available to everyone, these big Western pharmaceutical companies do not want that. Why they do not want it? Because here they look at those who are suffering, only those select few who are suffering and who have the economic capability to pay for their drugs, as a means to achieve an end, which is increasing the profit of the company. They don't look at the humanity as a whole, irrespective of the economic status of those people who cannot afford those medicines. Right? Immanuel Kant says, whatever you do, please do not look at humanity as a means, rather look at them as an ends in themselves. I can give you one more example of Kantian ethics that all of you would have come across in your modern India history subject. During the non-cooperation movement, the enthusiasm amongst the people was at a very high level. People believed that freedom will come by the end of the year as well. But nevertheless, after the occurrence of Chauri Chaura incident, Gandhiji withdrew the movement. Many people criticized Gandhiji for this purpose. But when you look at it from a Kantian ethics perspective, it does make sense to a very large degree. Gandhiji wanted to win independence. That was the end goal. But the means through which Gandhiji wanted to win it was always through non-violence. Let us say perhaps if Gandhiji had not withdrew the movement at that point in time, then what would have happened? Violence might have been adopted by people who were part of national freedom struggle across the country against the Britishers. There would be loss of lives, something that Kantian ethics does not stand for, or any other ethics does not stand for. And even if we had won independence through such violent methods, then there is all the probability that we would have accepted violence post-independence as well. But now when you look at our way of leading life, Non-violence is an inherent character trait that is similar to us irrespective of different, whatever religions we are from, whatever regions we are from, more or less, right? So acting in a right manner, adopting a right manner is very, very important, and that incident is a very example for Kantian ethics being there as part of your UPSC syllabus. There are more examples of this that you will come across in your daily life. I can talk about the movie Batman also. When you look at Batman, Batman badly wanted to kill Joker in the film Dark Knight. But still, Batman did not kill the Joker because he had a rule, an obligation that he did not want to violate. What was that moral obligation? To not kill whatever or whoever the person might be, even if that person is bad. As an officer, you have certain obligations, my friend, at all instants of time that you're supposed to uphold. Justice, equality, following rule of law yourself. Right? These are obligations that you cannot compromise at any instance of time. Now, let's look at the pros and cons of Kantian ethics. The pros are duty-based ethical system. I told you, deontological ethics is also called as duty. Duty-based ethical system tends to focus on giving equal respect to all human beings. In the sense, if there is a project that you want to implement in a area, this project is related to providing water from a nearby river. The project entails constructing a dam as well. Now, we will discuss about another ethical theory in our next video, that is teleological or utilitarianism. In this, if an action provides the greatest good for the greatest number of people, you please go ahead and do that action. Building a dam will provide water for drinking purposes, for agriculture purposes, for millions of people. But few thousands of people will be harmed who are living near that forest area, near that area. By Kantian perspective, the harm that is created for these few thousands of people is also important. You have to look for other alternative solutions in such kind of scenario. Here, each and every human being is given an equal respect, irrespective of the religion or any other narrow identifiers. This is what is important. Kantian provides that equality to all human beings. This is what this point is trying to say. Kantian ethics also provides clarity on what is considered as right and wrong. Usually, when we talk about ethics, there is a criticism against ethics in general. What is this ethics? It does not provide you a concrete direction. In certain cases, one type of ethics is followed. In certain cases, one type of ethics is followed. There is so much of confusion. But when you look at Kantian ethics, there is no such confusion. There is no gray area. There is just black and there is white, and you always have to be in that white zone. You're obligated to follow certain important values and actions throughout your life. Right? This is also one more advantage of Kantian ethics. The other one is the duty ethics are universal and hence can be applied to all the people in all situations. There is no various types of ethics that are specific to that region. Kantian ethics says that murder is wrong nowhere you go, no matter where you go. Honesty is something that you need to follow throughout your life, in your individual perspective, in your professional perspective, no matter which country or region you are from. So when this universal principle is there, you can compare and contrast as well. Your Universal Declaration of Human Rights is an example of this duty-based ethics. Right? What are the major criticism against Kantian ethics? Strict rule-based application might not be feasible in every situation. Duty-based ethics is not interested in the results. It can lead to courses of action that produce a reduction in the overall happiness of the world. I'll give you an example. Imagine there is a person who comes to you asking for a subsidy. Now that person does not have the required documents. Your duty or your standard operating procedure says that you should not provide the subsidy since that person does not have the documentation. And Kantian ethics tells you to adopt that approach. But at the end of the day, when you have strict rules of enforcement, the overall happiness of the individual, even though that person needs the subsidy very bad, he or she might not get that. Such strict rules of enforcement of Kantian ethics in all situations is near impossible. It's not that practical. This is what the first to criticism is trying to say. Duty-based ethics doesn't deal with the cases where duties are in conflict. Now imagine our Mahabharata. There is Kurukshetra, the war happening between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, and Arjuna is worried. Why is Arjuna worried? Arjuna is worried because he is obligated as a Kshatriya to carry out war. Arjuna is also worried because as a brother he is obligated to ensure the safety of his brothers, including the Kauravas as well. Is it not? In such type of a scenario, his mind was very confused, and it took Krishna to come into the picture and recite Bhagavad Gita. What Lord Sri Krishna told to Arjuna, he provided various shades of right and wrong. Kantian ethics tries to divide the world based on white and black. Lord Sri Krishna in his Bhagavad Gita said there is no such white or black. There are various shades of grey, and you have to deal with each and every situation as the demands of the situation calls for. Strict enforcement of Kantian ethics in such grey shades of area is never advisable. It can lead to the overall reduction of happiness of certain individuals as well. These are the summaries of the Kantian ethics. Alright, moving on. I have just given you some examples of Kantian ethics. This is all something that you can use in your examinations, and you have to add from your side as well. In the first image, I have showcased the kind of companies which are shown in this advertisement: Coca-Cola, Hyundai, Vogue, and whatnot. All these companies, they employ advertising strategies which look at human beings as means or ends. Most of them, they just look at human beings as their means, right? This is one example of that. Remember, at one particular point in time, cigarette companies, they used to market their products as something which was healthy in nature, even though they very well knew that their product was harmful. But nevertheless, the whole health of the humanity was not important in them. What was important at the end of the day was the profit of the companies. The cigarette companies grew. They used celebrities for advertisement. They used sports stars and whatnot. Only when the science started to come up with facts, started to showcase how bad the cigarettes are, these companies reduced these strategies. The government also came up with various regulations to regulate cigarette marketing in our country and also in the world, right? This is one more classical example of Kantian ethics. The other one that I've given over here is non-aligned movement. Once India got independence, there was a situation of Cold War happening between the Soviet Union and USA. Both of these countries wanted India to be part of their group. But India stood for its own values. We could have adopted a means, right, to either align with USA or Soviet Union for our own growth purposes, but we never did that. For us, having an inclusive world order which provides the same platform and an equal voice to each and every country was important. We wanted to achieve this end product, and we adopted the means, that is creation of NAM, to achieve this particular end. Right? This is one more example that you can use to highlight the Kantian perspective that is applied in history. Immanuel Kant himself has given a quote which sums up the Kantian ethics. Do the right thing because it is right. Here, he is obligating you on doing the right thing. And what are these right things? What are these obligations? We have spoken about it in the last couple of minutes. Do not steal, do not murder, do not lie. Always be honest. These are the right things which we know from a very young age. These are the right things which all people believe in. But when it comes to its practice, it's a different story altogether. Right? So this was about Kantian ethics. In the next video of ours, we will be taking up teleological ethics. We will do John Rawls' conception of justice and social contract theory. And then we will be moving on to case studies. Thank you.